Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Comic Book Users. Welcome to another episode of Inside the Cover, a look at another cool Warren magazine. As you folks know, a couple weeks ago I posted a video where I showed off a whole bunch of the Warren magazines that I picked up, Eerie, Creepy, and Vampirella. And slowly but surely I'm going to kind of give you a tour through some of these. And this one here in this episode, issue number 21 of Eerie from 1968. Only 40 cents. Can you imagine? You know what's really crazy? The fact that this is a book as old as it is. This is in really good condition. I really lucked out with some of the Eerie's and Creepies and Vampirellas that I picked up, and they are fairly old. Like a bunch in the 60s, most in the 70s. And man, I've bought regular Marvel comics from the same time period that are in worse condition as these. I mean, some of these look like they've barely been read and just kind of kept really, really safely over the years. So here we have a cool cover. Aga, what is it? See slight miscalculation in this throbbing issue. Cool alien cover on the front. Of course, you got a damsel in distress, which always seems to be the case, right? So here we got the monster gallery, as always, in the first page inside the cover of these. Lucifer's Legions. All right, and then there we got the table of contents, all the different stories that are in this issue. Eerie Fanfare, Point of View, Miscalculation, Terror in the Tomb, A Fatal Diagnosis, Warrior of Death, and House of Fiends. So again, this published by publisher James Warren, editor Bill Parente. Cover was done by Vic Prezio. Artists inside this issue: Ernie Colon, Tony Williamson, Rocco Mastroserio, Steve Ditko, and Jerry Grandinetti. Okay, writers in this issue: Archie Goodwin and Bill Parente. Okay, like I said, 1968, issue number 21. Of course, here we've got Dear Cousin Eerie, letters page, get that right off the bat. And then we got Point of View is the first story. And this is written by Archie Goodwin, art by Rocco Mastroserio. So this is basically a story of a brand new, kind of like warden in a prison, who comes into power and takes over, and he happens to be given a tour of all the destitute criminals and whatnot who are in this particular prison, and he basically, looks at them. He doesn't have great things to say about them because he's got a big ego, and he sees this one guy in the back of all these sniveling, criminals and whatnot, and that's the guy down below who looks like he doesn't belong. He's wearing a suit, nice hair and everything. So he's like, what's up with that guy? So he's like, well, that's his name. He's got some pretty queer ideas. So let's see about that guy. Simmons, fellow, what's your name? And he says, my name is Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein. So of course, this guy is kind of like, you don't say. I suppose I tell you, Frankenstein is a book, a fiction by Mary Shelley. And he goes, and it's based on my life experience. And he's like, oh, really, Mr. Frankenstein? I'm surprised. A renowned maker of monsters like yourself idles his time away here. You have no creations on hand? Of course, my latest experiment is right over there. What the? And then he looks over and he sees a huge, misshapen creature who's all chained up in the back. All right. But basically, this warden guy, he doesn't believe any of this. He's like, you're not Frankenstein. This is not your creation. You're just some freak that's in here with everybody else. So, and he's all about abusing his power now. So as you can see, he takes out his little stick that, keeps the prisoners at bay and whacks the big monstrous guy. Then he goes and slaps the guy who says he's Victor Frankenstein. And he says to everybody down there, he goes, remember this, all of you. I won't indulge your mad fantasies. The quicker you realize you're mindless vermin, the better your lot will be. So he's really not a good guy at all, right? So, but he periodically goes down there and he goes and checks on them and just, like I said, just makes fun of them and whatnot, and basically ridicules them and doesn't believe a word of it. He goes, you're insane. Insanity is sin. I'm not here to pamper you, but to punish you. That's what you should expect from me, because that's what you'll get. So basically, then go to the not too distant future, and And also, the guy, the Frankenstein guy says, the problem with him, he's actually, the creature. He's like, he's not bad. He's just, there's something going on with his mind. I need to give him a new brain and all this kind of stuff in the war. It's like, get out of here with this mumbo jumbo nonsense, right? It's all a book. It's all a story, all this kind of stuff. So then, fast forward a little bit, and you've got, in the middle of the night, he gets woken up by the one of the security guys who said there's been, the inmates have broken free, overrunning the asylum. Frankenstein is leading all of them. And so he's like, oh, let me go check on this. This can't be. What are you saying? What can we do? And of course, he gets up out of bed, and who's there but the monster, the creation, who goes and attacks him, starts choking him. The warden blacks out. Next thing he knows, he awakens. He's like, oh, I guess, what happened? What happened? He looks in the mirror, and there, what does he see? The face of the creation, the monster, and then Victor Frankenstein comes up behind him and says to him, he goes, see, I did it. From now on, you'll believe it whenever Victor Frankenstein tells you about an operation. Good thing you died when you did. I didn't know where I'd have gotten another brain. So basically, the creature killed him, but then the Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, went and took his brain, put it into the monster, and there you have it. So, pretty cool little story, I think. Here you have some little articles and things. Okay, Eerie fanfare. And then we've got this whole story about miscalculation. Okay, that's the title of this one. This is in 1968, so we're like not long after kind of like the Cold War, right, between U.S. and Russia, USSR at the time, right? So here, a lot of tensions going on about nuclear bombs, nuclear attacks. So here, this shows you both sides of the U.S. and USSR, and how they think the other one's going to attack. So then, one of them goes off and sets off the bombs, and they got these top scientists who think that there's actually, why are we doing this? We shouldn't be getting involved in this because we have this. They have a whole alien problem, right? So they suspect that there's aliens out there as well. So basically, the gist of this whole story is that neither side was really going to attack each other. But what was happening is the aliens were plotting, right? So then basically you see the button, the fire button being pressed. And what basically happens here is complete and total Armageddon. The U.S. and the Russians basically annihilate each other. But neither one of them was the instigator. It was the aliens, and it's actually this alien race here on the front. So it's kind of like a little play on make sure you know all the facts before you jump the gun on anything. And that one was by Bill Parente did the story, and Tony Williamson did the art. And that leads us to perhaps my favorite story in this one, called Terror in the Tomb, which is art by Rocco Mastoserio, story by Archie Goodwin. So here you got a good kind of take on the old mummy, classic mummy tale, right? So basically, they foreshadow a little bit there in the beginning. But then basically what happens is these two, kind of like scientists, I guess, they go and discover this ancient tomb. And at the beginning of the tomb, the entranceway to the tomb, there is this mummy, okay? And behind him, or to the side of him, there is a door with all sorts of hieroglyphics and things written on the door, and they assume that there's treasures and all sorts of stuff behind the door. So of course, they realize that all the natives that brought them there have left because they're all superstition. You can't go in there, you can't go through, you can't go investigating in there. There's a curse on it, whatever. So basically, the one guy kind of has his senses about him and says, maybe we should not do this, maybe we should not do this. The other one's like, no, we'll be rich, we'll make all these discoveries, we'll be famous and all that. We've got to get through. So he brings in like dynamite to blow up the door to get into the actual tomb itself, which he does. And after he does that, they see like another kind of like mummy that's right here, right, or looks like some kind of ancient king or whatever. And then as they do that, the actual mummy out in the front comes to life. Goes to attack them. So, of course, they've got torches. They go and they throw the torches at the mummy. The mummy goes up in flames, dies, all right? Then they go and they discover that what actually wound up happening is this pharaoh that was locked in this tomb is actually a really evil thing. And the mummy was put outside of the tomb to prevent people from going in there and letting this evil out. So then what winds up happening is the evil pharaoh comes to life, kills the both of them. Oh well. Classic stuff. All right, here you have Fatal Diagnosis, and this is art by Ernie Colon, story by Bill Parente. This is basically an interesting, quick little story, and it's in a hospital, right, at the morgue. People are dying. They see they got weird little bite marks on their necks, so they go to do the autopsy, and they're like, "Oh, there's no blood in this dead person. What happened? Does that have anything to do with the bite marks?" And of course, the one doctor finds out that there is a vampire loose in the morgue. All right. So what does he suspect? So we gotta kill this one right here. Might be the vampire. So let's put a stake through the heart. But I think that someone else might be behind it. Basically, what it turns out to be is that the head guy at the morgue, the head doctor, actually, and this is a cool little page right here. Let me get back to that. So he goes and looks in the mirror and notices that the director, no reflection shows up. So he's a vampire. So what does he do? He tells, I kind of suspected you. He goes, how did you find out? Whatever. So he went and kills him, puts a stake through his heart. And then it actually turns out that the surgeon guy and the nurse are also both vampires. And what they were doing is all three of them they didn't know the director was as well, but all three of them were actually vampires, and as these dead patients came in, they would just drain them of their blood, and that's how they would survive. So so basically says, well, there's hardly enough blood here for the two of us without having to feed an outsider. So it's the two of them, and they're the ones kind of run the whole thing. Kind of a kooky story, but cool. And then last but not least, we've got The Warrior of Death. Art by Steve Ditko, script by Archie Goodwin. This is really intriguing because you don't often see Steve Ditko doing any black and white stuff. And in fact, if you look at this art as I go through this, it really, if you didn't tell me this was Steve Ditko, I wouldn't have thought it was, because it looks so different. It's actually, he does a really good job here. He does all the inks and everything. And him and black and white really seem to mesh quite well. So this is all the story of this warrior, this soldier who makes a pact with the devil, makes a pact with death, and basically says, I will basically serve you, give me life everlasting. I want to be the ultimate warrior. I want to go in and to all these battles, and I want to come out victorious and all that kind of stuff. So again, don't make a deal with the devil because you don't know how it's going to turn out. So basically, he does that, and then he goes into all these battles, and he is always the last one standing. He basically decimates everyone. Again, look at this artwork, right? You can kind of see little Ditko-isms here. Again, this is 68. So this is still at the height of, was he still working on Spider-Man at the time? No, 68 might have already turned the reins over to I'm drawing a complete blank. God, I'll think of it. Anyway, jeez. Romita, John Romita, jeez. So, by 68, Romita and Gil Kane have already, worked on Spider-Man. But still, again, if you look really closely, you can see little things that may remind you of Ditko, but for the most part, you look up here, and you might be reminded of some of the Doctor Strange stuff that Ditko worked on. But for the most part, this, again, I would never have thought that this was Ditko. Basically, this warrior guy, he's winning every fight and whatnot. Then he comes up against another dude who supposedly is the baddest of the bad, and they get into it here. And then what happens is in their battle, he gets stabbed, and he's like, "Oh no, how can this be? How can I be dying?" And Death comes and says, "I kept my bargain, Zahran." Zahran's the name of the warrior. "I did not foresee it's making you a blasphemous rival to me. You did not foresee the same bargain might be struck with others. Others are immortal like me." So basically said, yes, the guy who just stabbed you, I made the same deal with him. I can make the deal with anybody I want, as long as you don't get so brave that you think that you are going to be greater than me and defying death like I do, because he is death. So basically, again, the moral of the story is don't make a deal with the devil, because it's not gonna work out in the end. And pretty cool little story there. And then of course you've got the great advertisements. All right, these are all the creepy issues. And don't worry, we'll be showing you some creepies fairly soon. What else we got here? More stuff. And then And one more story. You got lots of stories in this one. Less advertisements in this one, more stories. House of Fiends. This is really an interesting story here. So basically here you've got this guy who comes upon, he's a doctor, and he comes upon a house, that send for a doctor. We need a doctor, right? So he goes to the house, answers the door. This really ghoulish looking dude answers the door and says, doctor, but you're not our normal doctor. And it's because, well, your normal doctor, Dr. Aldrich, has disappeared, and I've been assigned to take over his cases. I'm Dr. Prentice. I've come all this way. Can you please let me in? So he lets him in, meets the husband and wife, and they talk about how their niece Rachel, she's locked up in the tower and she's insane, but we want you to kind of look at her, but she's locked up there for a reason. We can't let her out. She's nuts. So he goes up there, the doctor goes up there and sees Rachel up there, and she seems perfectly normal. And she says, they're crazy. I don't know why they locked me up here, so on and so forth. And, and you better get out of here because they're nuts. They're going to kill you. And he's like, oh, whatever. So he's very skeptical of everything that's going on here. All right, but then he talks to the parents, and he's like, I don't know what the deal is. Why you have her locked up there? And then he notices that it's a full moon, and he notices that the husband turns into a werewolf. So he goes through the house. He's like, oh my God, he's got to, because she warns him, because the girl locked up the niece warns him that the husband is a werewolf, the wife her aunt is a vampire, and the servant is a ghoul. But he doesn't believe any of it. Well, now he sees that the one is a werewolf. So he goes and he runs away, he escapes him. But then he goes into the kitchen and he sees the servant, the ghoul, and he sees, oh my God, and he looks like a ghoul now. So they get into this fight. He winds up victorious, the doctor, and then he notices there's the wife. She's a vampire, right? So he goes, deals with her. Then he sees there's the werewolf again. He goes back up to the niece. So he kills the ghoul, kills the vampire, goes up to the tower, sees the werewolf, goes, and then he's got the silver dagger, right? Stabs the werewolf, kills the werewolf, goes and lets the niece loose, takes off her chains, and then finds out, and I'll read it to you because it's pretty cool. He goes, there, Rachel, it's over. They've all been destroyed, each fiendish one. She goes, free. I knew you'd believe me. The moment I looked into your eyes, innocent, trusting, I knew you'd believe. He goes, what? What are you trying to say? I don't. She goes, chaining my hands may be helpless, but given the proper subject, I can still suggest things. The others were too strong, but I convinced you, made you see them as monsters. Now I'm unshackled. I'm free. Free to conjure with my full powers, free to run rampant as before they confine me, free to destroy fools like you and Dr. Aldrich, free to leave my life as a witch. And it says here, oops, looks like the doc made the wrong diagnosis, but if you think he was seeing monsters, wait till you catch my next terrifying tidbit. So basically, she was the witch, she was the evil one, and she made him see, she conjured up images that all her family members were a werewolf, a vampire, and a ghoul, when actually they weren't. She's the evil one there, so she played him like a fool, and now he's done, and she's out in the world and doing whatnot. So there you have it. That's the last story here. Anything else I want to show you? Here's some old Eerie issues. Okay. And then on the back, like I said, we've got a giant-sized poster. So cool stuff. Issue number 21 from 1968 of Eerie from Warren Publishing. Like I said, you'll be seeing more inside the covers on some of these great Warren books. I've got a whole bunch of Eerie's, a whole bunch of Creepies. I got to get more Vampirella. I showed you the only ones I picked up, but I'll definitely be doing that. So thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And we'll see you here while Bill and I are getting together over the weekend. So we'll be pumping out some more videos together for you. So stay tuned for that probably early next week or over the weekend. And until then, I am Pete Pardo from Comic Book Geezers. I will see you here real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.